clear morning in August 1945, the world changed forever. At 8:15 a.m. on August 6th, the American B-29 bomber Enola Gay released Little Boy over Hiroshima, detonating with a force that leveled the city and killed tens of thousands instantly. 3 days later, on August 9th, Fat Man struck Nagasaki, compounding the horror. These atomic bombings, marking the only use of nuclear weapons in warfare, hastened Japan's surrender and ended World War II. But as the dust settled and the mushroom clouds faded, the true story began. Not of military strategy or geopolitical shifts, but of the profound, enduring humanitarian and social scars left on survivors, their families, and society at large. Everyone knows the timeline of the blasts. What lingers are the human costs, the quiet battles fought in hospitals, homes, and hearts for decades after. This is their story, one that resonates with the sacrifices of our World War II generation. Your fathers, uncles, and neighbors who fought for a better world, only to witness the dawn of an era where war's shadow could stretch across generations. In the moments after the blasts, Hiroshima and Nagasaki became landscapes of apocalypse. The immediate death toll was staggering. Estimates place it at 90,000 to 166,000 in Hiroshima and 60,000 to 80,000 in Nagasaki within the first few months, many from burns, blast injuries, and acute radiation syndrome. People vaporized at ground zero, their shadows etched into walls and bridges like eternal specters. Survivors stumbled through rubble, their skin hanging in tatters from thermal burns, eyes blinded by the flash, ears ringing from the shockwave. Humanitarian crises unfolded rapidly. Hospitals were overwhelmed or destroyed. In Hiroshima, the Red Cross Hospital, a mile from zero point, remained functional but inundated with victims suffering from horrific wounds. Bandages were scarce, pain relief non-existent for many. Rivers filled with bodies as the thirsty and burned sought relief, only to drown or succumb to infections. Father John A. Symes, a Jesuit priest near Hiroshima, recounted rushing to aid the dying. Rivers clogged, streets a sea of the injured, with an estimated 100,000 dead in the initial wave. Social structures collapsed, families shattered, children orphaned, communities erased. In Nagasaki, confined by hills, the industrial valley was flattened, but outer areas spared, leading to uneven aid distribution. The social fabric tore immediately. Military personnel, around 20,000 in Hiroshima, were wiped out, leaving garrisons leaderless. Schools, shrines, and factories, symbols of daily life, were gutted. Bridges buckled, roads etched with grit. But some infrastructure survived due to the bomb's altitude, allowing minimal movement. Yet, rumors of deadly rays deterred rescuers, though Siems and others entered without immediate harm. This fear compounded isolation, as survivors scavenged for food amid fires that raged for days, consuming wooden homes and adding to the death toll through smoke and secondary burns. Fear of deadly rays spread, deterring many from approaching the devastated areas, deepening the isolation of survivors. They wandered through rubble, searching for food, water, and loved ones, shrouded in smoke and the stench of death. Families were torn apart, children orphaned, and communities shattered. Survivors faced a world where everything familiar had vanished, leaving only pain and fragile survival. As weeks turned to months and years, the bomb's true insidious nature revealed itself through radiation's lingering grip. Acute radiation sickness claimed thousands more in the initial aftermath. Nausea, hair loss, internal bleeding, and death from destroyed bone marrow. But the long-term effects were even more devastating, manifesting as cancers and other diseases that haunted survivors, known as Hibakusha 4 lifetimes. Leukemia emerged as the deadliest, appearing about 2 years post-bombing and peaking 4 to 6 years later, particularly affecting children. The Radiation Effects Research Foundation, RERF, successor to the Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission, ABCC, estimates a 46% attributable risk from radiation. Solid cancers followed around 10 years later, with a 10.7% attributable risk, as per a 2003 study. By 2025, RERF reports new cancers, heart and immune problems, strokes, inflammation, and radiation-induced cataracts among survivors. In utero exposure added tragedy. Children exposed before birth faced small head size, mental disabilities, and impaired growth, though their cancer risks were lower than those exposed as young children. No excess diseases in children of survivors have been observed, but ongoing monitoring continues. As of 2025, victim registers exceed 540,000, including those dying from long-term radiation effects, with numbers still rising. Japanese Red Cross hospitals treat Hibakusha for these illnesses even now, 80 years on. Survivor stories personalize this. Yoshiro Yamawaki from Nagasaki, diagnosed with stomach cancer, said, "The atom bomb killed victims 3 times. Heat, pressure, radiation." Fujio Torikoshi from Hiroshima bore keloid scars, a daily reminder. These physical tolls not only shortened lives, but altered daily existence, with pain, surgeries, and vulnerabilities to infections. Ecological effects compounded health woes. Contaminated food and water led to epidemics, while fallout disrupted agriculture, causing malnutrition that weakened immune systems. In a broader sense, these health crises strained medical systems, diverting resources from other needs and leaving Hibakusha dependent on aid. Beyond the body, the bombs ravaged minds. Psychological effects were profound, with survivors reporting higher anxiety and somatization symptoms, physical manifestations of stress, 17 to 20 years later. A 1962 interview study captured this, alongside anecdotal reports of nightmares, flashbacks, and survivor guilt. Many Hibakusha experienced post-traumatic stress disorder-like symptoms, haunted by the flash, the roar, the loss. Socially, this trauma isolated individuals. Low energy and depression hindered rebuilding lives. Inosuke Hayasaki from Nagasaki reflected, "Favors and good deeds are often forgotten, but trauma and misdeeds are passed on from one generation to the other." This intergenerational shadow affected children, who absorbed parents' fears, leading to anxiety in families. Discrimination amplified psychological pain. Hibakusha faced stigma due to scars and radiation fears, seen as contaminated. Emiko Okada from Hiroshima noted orphans turning to crime amid poverty, labeling the city a city of Yakuza. Marriage and employment prospects suffered. Many hid their status to avoid rejection. Long-term, this led to social withdrawal. Studies show reduced trust among victims, impacting community bonds. Yet, resilience shone through. Survivors like Ryuga Suwa rebuilt temples and advocated peace, turning pain into purpose. The social consequences extended to outright discrimination, a humanitarian scar as deep as physical ones. Hibakusha were shunned, feared for radiation contagion, leading to job loss, marriage denials, and social ostracism. Ugly scars marked them as reminders of defeat, fueling prejudice. Children suffered most. Orphaned by the thousands, many fended for themselves, facing malnutrition and exclusion. Kumiko Arakawa, losing her family, supported siblings at 20, with no memory of how. This bred cycles of poverty, as Hibakusha struggled with education and employment. Government aid came slowly. Initial denial of effects delayed support. By the 1950s, laws provided medical care, but stigma persisted. Socially, This fractured communities, with Hibakusha forming support groups to combat isolation. The bomb's reach extended to families and descendants. Life events altered. Lower educational attainment, disrupted employment, delayed family formation. Children of survivors inherited fears, though no genetic mutations were proven. Yamawaki noted implications for children and grandchildren. Socially, trauma passed through stories, shaping identities. Sachiko Matsuo lost her father to sickness, his agony etched in memory. This fostered resilience, but also caution, with survivors like Takato Michishita warning youth. Wars begin covertly. If you sense it coming, it may be too late. Economic strains compounded. Malnutrition weakened survivors, reducing workforce participation. Families rebuilt amid ruins, using scrap for homes, symbolizing grit, but highlighting inequality. Economically, the bombings devastated livelihoods. Factories like Mitsubishi's were wrecked, halting production and causing unemployment. Long-term, Hibakusha faced barriers to jobs due to health and stigma, leading to poverty cycles. Society-wide, this spurred reconstruction. By 1955, Hiroshima bustled anew, but at a cost. The ABCC/RERF studies, starting 1946, tracked 31,000 survivors, revealing patterns, but also raising ethical questions about experimentation. Globally, economic aid from the US helped, but social divides lingered, with Hibakusha advocating for justice. Humanitarian horrors birthed peace efforts. Hibakusha led anti-nuclear campaigns, with memorials like Hiroshima Peace Park honoring the dead. The ICRC, on the 80th anniversary in 2025, called for nuclear elimination, noting no adequate response to such weapons. The Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, TPNW, gains traction, with 73 parties. Culturally, stories and films, books, and art preserve memory, educating generations. Shigeko Matsumoto prays for peace. I pray that every human being finds peace. This legacy warns of nuclear dangers, emblematic of warfare's costs. 80 years on, Hiroshima and Nagasaki stand as testaments to human suffering and strength. Over 100,000 perished immediately, with long-term effects claiming more, totaling over 540,000 victims. For baby boomers and Gen X, this echoes family World War II tales, high sin for freedom. Now a caution against escalation. The humanitarian impacts. Beyond any organization's capacity demand, we prioritize peace. Like our forebears, we must honor the Hibakusha's resilience. Yasujiro Tanaka's plea, cherish this day, be kind to others. In facing modern threats, let their stories guide us toward a world without such shadows, where high sin leads to lasting harmony.